Hi everyone, I am Vigyana and I would like to show you how to sit properly in a meditation pose. So we are in my yoga room right now and I have prepared a few things over here. I have prepared this mat, which we're using in our yoga room. Then this rubber mat, which most people are using at home. Then a chair for people who can't sit on the floor in a meditation pose. And then a few other options over here. But I would like to start with this mat here. And the reason why I would like to make this video is because I see in so many places people are sitting like this when they sit in a meditation pose. So knees are pointing straight up, no cushion at all, or they even sit so that they pull their feet close to the body and their feet are under their legs and they sit like this. So this pose is not really a meditation pose because if you are planning to sit for some time, then you will, after some time you will feel that you will get maybe pain in your back, or you feel it pressing against the ankles, or you feel it in your knees. So I would like to show just a small detail which is actually very important and which can make a really big difference how you sit in the meditation pose. Most people, they need to come a little bit higher up. We use these thicker mats, so we just make a roll out of the mat. We don't use any other cushions. So how you do it is that you just don't fold the mat like this, because this won't help so much. It becomes flat right away when you sit on it. So when you make this roll, then make sure that you are this roll becomes quite tight and hard, because then it's much easier to sit on it. So then when you have the cushion, you bend your legs, and then you don't cross your ankles like this, but what you do is that you let your knees point out to the sides, and now your feet are coming front of each other. So not like this, but like this. And why we are making this cushion, it's because when you then sit on the middle, then you just do a small movement. If you can just show on the side over here. When you lean yourself a little bit forward, when you do like this, then your back becomes automatically straight, and it's much easier to sit in this way. So just this small movement. But it's very normal when people sit like this for the first time, that somebody can't have their knee down all the way down to the floor, or maybe both knees are pointing a little bit upwards. So for you, if this doesn't help, this movement here, leaning forward, then you could take a blanket, let's say it's only one knee pointing a little bit upwards, and have it under your knee like this. So this helps both to support your body, you feel much more stable, and it just feels nice to support your leg like this. So if you need it on both legs, you do that. So this is something I tell everybody who is here on a first class. But then if you, let's say you've been gone for several classes and you start to notice a difference, you start to become more flexible in the whole body and also your legs, then I would recommend to try another meditation pose. So for that, it's called Half Lotus, and for that I will roll out the cushion a little bit so it's not as high. And then you bring one foot as close to the body as possible, And then you place the other foot up on a thigh, and then you sit like this. So when you start to put up your foot up on a thigh, then your back will, it's much easier to keep the back upright. And when you start to sit in a half lotus, then also sometimes change, because it's very normal that to one side it's a little bit easier. Then try with, you bring this foot as close to the body as you can, and then you place the other foot up on a thigh. So it's good you practice both sides. And when you then feel that, okay, you sit good like this, and then you could try a full lotus. And here I'm not going to have any cushion at all. At least I will start like this, and I have one foot up on a thigh, and then the other foot up on a thigh. So both feet are up now here. So when you start to sit in a full lotus, then you don't need a big cushion, but if it's so that you have some space under here, which is very normal, if I have this foot up on this thigh, then usually this knee, there is some space in between. Then instead of making a big cushion, you could fold the blanket like this, and you put it under your, you just put the edge under your buttocks, and then you sit much better. Then when you want to try even one more meditation pose, this one is called the perfect pose. I will again start with no cushion at all. Here you do it so that you bring one foot as close to the body as you can, and then you place the toes here in between. So you do like this. And now when I've done it, then I have my heels on top of each other. Here I would need to come just a little bit higher up. I will again use the blanket. I just roll a small cushion. So here I don't need to come too high up, because you're supposed to feel the heels here, so you don't come too high up. And this pose is also a very, very stable and good meditation pose. And same here, sometimes it's good to change, because it might be much easier to the other side. But still it's good to practice both. So these were 4 meditation poses. This is called the easy pose, half lotus, full lotus, and the perfect pose. So now I would like to move on with this mat, because most people are using this thin rubber mat at home. And when you use this mat, then it is very, you can't fold the cushion like you do with these mats, because this is very, very thin. You almost need to fold or roll the whole mat before you feel that it's high enough. So instead of rolling this mat, again, take a few blankets, and then, because these blankets we are using for when we do relaxation, then people can have something so that they won't start to freeze during the relaxation. But I use this, and then now I'm making this kind of, this roll like this, and then you sit exactly in the same way. So you bend both legs and feet are front of each other. So this is how you could sit at home. Some people use these kind of things. I'm not very big fan of them, because for me, I'm so used to sitting on a roll, because it allows you to adjust your body much more. If you want to have it higher, it's very easy to just roll it a little bit more. If you want to come lower down because you sit in a different meditation pose, then you just roll it out. I find them a little bit too too stiff, but it's up to you. If you have these, then you can use. And by the way, towels are really good to use. Also when you are, for example, traveling or you're visiting friends and you don't have a yoga mat with you, but you want to, for example, sit for a moment in a meditation pose, use a towel. Hotels usually have big towels, and it's very easy to make a really good cushion for the meditation of those. And one more thing, for people who have injuries with their knees and they can't bend their legs, so what you can do is that you could sit with one leg straight like this, but then I would recommend that you make a little roll here again, or you can place a cushion under and then something under your heel. So you sit like this. It's not a good idea to just straighten a leg in this way and let it point forward, but a little bit out to the sides, because then they're both pointing a little bit out to the sides, and this almost feels like a meditation pose. But if you have problems with both knees, that I don't recommend to sit like this. It just doesn't feel very good. For you, I would recommend a chair. So this I'm going to show now. I'm going to use these blankets again. When you are going to use a chair, then most chairs, the back part here is leaning a little bit like this, backwards. That means that when you sit on a chair, at least for the meditation, and if you sit like this, in the beginning it maybe feels very comfortable, but after some time you start to notice that you actually can start to tense in your neck. And generally when you sit in a meditation pose, then think about keeping your back straight, your spine straight. So if you take these blankets, or if you can use a cushion, then you have something just behind your lower back, and then that changes your position. So you keep your buttocks as close to the back part as possible. You have something behind maybe if you can show it also from this direction, behind your back, and then you sit like this. When you sit on a chair, then for instance, this chair is a little bit too high for me, because I feel this edge over here. So I would like to have something under my feet to come a little bit higher up. Nothing you think about in the beginning, but when you've been sitting for some time, then you feel that it's pressing against your thighs. But otherwise you just sit like this with legs a little bit apart, hands on the knees, and then you can have your meditation, or if you do breathing exercises, in this position. But since in our yoga room here we are using these kind of mats, you could even during the meditation sit with straight legs. So what you do here is that you, a little bit same like you did with the chair, that you have something behind you, behind the back, and then you come as close as possible. So same thing here, you just don't sit in this way, buttocks as close to the wall as possible, and then you sit like this. So during the meditation you should not just sit with straight legs, because you get, and not lean against anything, because after some times you just get tired of holding the back upright, and then you sink forward like this, and then you get pain in your back. So that's why lean against the wall, have something behind your back, and then you can sit like this When you lean against the wall, then don't have your head leaning against the wall like this. Same thing here, you start to tense in your back or in your neck, and that you feel it after some time. And I have one more option over here, and I have, since we are using thick mats, we can make a roll out of it. Then you sit on the edge. At home you could, for instance, maybe use a cushion or maybe even a blanket, like a thick blanket, and then you try to make it as big as possible, and then you sit on the edge, and then you have your feet on the side like this. And to sit in this way reminds a little bit of how you use meditation benches. They look like this, wooden benches. Usually they are quite high. You can also sit in a meditation pose. But usually people who choose the meditation bench or sit on a roll like this, they might have something with their hips. They can't have their knees pointing out to the sides like this. So for those, this would fit very well. And if you use the bench, you can even hide your feet underneath, and then again have your knees pointing a little bit out to the sides. So these were now different options how to sit. So I hope that this video was helpful for you, and now you are inspired to try out different ways to sit, and maybe now you can enjoy your meditation longer. Thank you for watching.